I chose 1945 Los Angeles because of a real history. I was listening to our public radio station, KCRW, and they were doing a story on our neighborhood in LA, West Adam Heights. And West Adam Heights was LA's Beverly Hills before we had a Beverly Hills, right? All the LA aristocracy lived there. And then in 1929, stock market crashes. All of a sudden, maintaining a mansion seems a little bit out of reach for some of these people who've been living there. So they need to sell. But who has the money to buy? And the only people that had money to buy were the newly wealthy African Americans. So we had black business moguls, black hoteliers, black oil tycoons, and of course black Hollywood. And so by the 1940s, this was a majority black neighborhood, and what but it was, and I shouldn't say but, and it was exceptionally wealthy. So Hattie McDaniel was one of the people who lived there, the woman who plays Mammy in Gone with the Wind. And she would have these gala parties where Clark Gable and Lena Horne and Bing Crosby were there, and Duke Ellington was the entertainment. And so I heard about this place. I live in Los Angeles. I didn't know it existed. And it sounded positively Gatsby-esque. And I'm like, but it was real and it was black. And I was desperate to know about this neighborhood and this period of time. It sounded fascinating. It is not how we envision the black experience at that time. This is not a community that gets a lot of attention, or any attention really. So I just dove into that, and I decided I was going to reimagine The Great Gatsby, but set it in this real world setting. So use this familiar story to elevate this unfamiliar part of Black history. And so what I did then was I took my Nick is Charles Trammell and Charlie. And he's just served in the 761st in World War II. He's come home to Virginia, where he's the son of a sharecropper, and he's there. And guess what? As usual, as is the case with almost the end of almost all of our American wars, black soldiers were not exactly welcomed when they came home. So, in fact, if anything, it made them a target. So he has a cousin out in Los Angeles. Who periodically writes, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, come, come, come!" Right? It's fantastic. It's amazing. It's fantastical. And she's one of those people who always says stuff like that. She is an over, she is a sort of Pollyannish, over the top figure. So he's not totally sure to trust it, but okay. He goes to LA, and she is, married to this man and living in what is West Adam Heights, which has now been dubbed LA Sugar Hill. And his eyes are opened to a world that he did not know existed, the from the Battle of the Bulge, or then and Jim Crow Virginia, to like this Eden of black affluence. It's this huge transition. So we follow him, and we kind of get to see him through his eyes, the drama of this neighborhood, because there is drama. It's like, for one thing, there's conflict within the community. There's the black business moguls who feel like the black celebrities are taking these demeaning roles and undermining the entire race and impeding their efforts for social progress. And the black celebrities who want the black business moguls to get off their back because they're taking the roles that are available, and at least there is black visibility in Hollywood instead of people doing blackface, right? So there's tension there. And then there's also the remaining white residents. And the remaining white residents, there is, when these people bought these mansions, when the African Americans bought the mansions, almost all of them had racial covenants on the deed. And so on the racial covenant for each of these deeds, it said the only black people who were allowed to live in these homes had to be working as servants to white people. That was written in. And that was to be true, hold true from the time it was written to 2035, right? They had it very specific, right? So the white residents are putting together a legal challenge to get these people who are minks and diamonds and all this stuff literally evicted from their homes. So you have people of extraordinary wealth who are now at risk of homelessness, right? And um and so Charlie comes into that world and sees all of this going on, and and it's it's complicated, and it's alluring, and it's dangerous. And and yes, it's the Great Gatsby, so I have all the people, you have the cousin, she has her husband who's problematic. And then you have this figure who's outside of both the black business community and the black Hollywood, this extraordinarily wealthy, mysterious man where nobody's really sure where his money comes from, but he has these great parties. You have the whole thing. And um and it was so great. I mean, because it's like I got to bring in, so I have my fictional characters that the jumping off point was Fitzgerald's characters. And then I have all these historical characters that I bring in, both um, people from the civil rights and black business era that people don't necessarily know, and one of the most important black lawyers, that also Lauren Miller, that a lot of people don't know, he's in there. But then you have Ethel Waters, you have Hattie McDaniel, you have Lena Horne. I get them all. I got them all. And so it was a pleasure to live in this world. And the research itself was so rich, to the point that I feel like I have to write another book in the era because you couldn't get it all in, right? And I did want to be really conscious while writing this book. There's a pacing, there's a story. It's really easy to fall in love with your research and just jam it all in because you want people to know it all, right? And I had to hold myself back. There were a lot of deletions. It's like there's no reason for this story. I know it's really interesting, but there's no reason for the story here. Um, that's hard. It's like you want to tell. So maybe I could find, maybe the next one I'll bring that in, different stories, same period. But yeah, so that's the essence of the great man. And again, the mysterious character, his name is James Mann. So again, that's why. I heard there is an LA based indie rapper here, Fed Jewel, and he had in 2016 he had this release of this album Fuchsia, and on the title track there is one line that really really hit me, and I thought, okay, I have to embody that in a character or work. That has to happen. And so from that line, I put in gave this guy the name Reaper. I that's it's like if people tell you what, if people actually get to the end of the book and they want to ask me about that, my DMs are open. I will tell you, but you got to get to the end because otherwise I give away too much. The things that I did to really help me there, I did research 1940 slang. That was I did a deep dive there, and I had to be really careful too. There are words and expressions that I assumed existed in 1945 that did not, right? And so I was cautious about that. Then I was, whenever I could find an interview or a transcript from one of these people, I listen to it. And for the celebrities, they exist, right? You can find a little bit here and there. I'm also really fortunate that so many of these people wrote like editorials or letters to the editor to the black newspapers, so I can read those through. I really, yeah, I mean, the more that I could get their voice through their actual quotes, the better, right? People like Hattie McDaniel, that's what's interesting about Hattie is that she, in so many ways, she really did do a lot to advance the rights of Black actors behind the scenes, right? In terms of, like, joining SAG and getting she advocated for Lena Horne to become the first uh, Black woman on the SAG board, and that absolutely would not have happened without Hattie. Um, but she did play into white racism, not just on the screen. She did it off screen too, with for her work. So she allowed the publicity departments to put out things that made her seem like she was Mammy, right? And so where that gets tricky is that some of the things that she was quoted as saying, I'm not really sure if that's performative or if that's actually what she would have said. So there's a court case um, where afterwards she comes out, and I've read many different articles where it says she came out and says that's a mighty fine judge, right? And then I found a Time magazine article that was written by a reporter who was at that court case that came out right after it. And she was quoted directly, and she said, um, words cannot express my appreciation. Now, there's a big difference from mighty fine judge to words cannot express my appreciation. So how did that happen, right? Was it just that she allowed the publicity department to twist things so that the white audiences could still feel comfortable with her, or did she say two different things to different two different reporters? I don't know. Um, what I do know is that I kind of took a path down the middle there, because I know she's capable at least of doing both. Yeah. If nothing else, I know she's capable of doing both. And so she was probably the trickiest. Everybody else, I mean, Lena Horne didn't do that. Like, Lena Horne was like, no, she didn't play that game. Ethel Waters absolutely did not play that game. I mean, she was actually labeled difficult because she didn't play that game. And um, one of her directors asked her why she was being so difficult, and she said, because Lincoln freed me too. And um, so they were easier. And again, just getting their words and then learning their learning their voice and being able to transfer on the page